Hey, what's going on? It is I, Madam Whipbass, and I am sitting here eating some mint chocolate chip ice cream and reflecting on the Bobby Brown interview that took place last night, which would be June 7th, 2016, and today's June 8th, 2016. And I didn't make a video right away because I really needed to just let it all sink in and, reflect and analyze and sort some things out. And there's a few things I want to talk about. First of all, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing, but it's probably going to sound like I'm bashing. Whatever. It's just going to be what it's going to be. And I should have written my points down first, and that's why I'm kind of stalling right now, because that's what I'm doing. First thing is, I think Bobby lied a couple of times in that interview. The first lie was when he said that Whitney lied when she said that he spit on her. I don't know. Hey, do I have proof? Was I there? No. But I do know that Whitney was a Leo, and I'm a Leo. And Leos just don't lie on folks. That's just not something we do. We tell the truth. We are bold and frank with the truth. So I think it's easy for him to say it's all lies because Whitney is not here, and neither is Bobby Chris to defend themselves. I take issue with Bobby for blaming this Nick Gordon and presenting it in the light as he stated, well, Nick was there at Whitney's demise as well as Bobby Chris. And I can understand where Bobby is coming from, only from the standpoint of when you're a complete fuck up and tragedy happens, it's just so much easier for you to point your fucking fingers at anybody and scapegoat everybody and anybody else. And you never realize that while you're pointing your one finger, Bobby, at Nick, you got 3 of your own fucking fingers pointing right back at you. This is not Nick's fault. I don't think Nick killed Whitney. I don't think he was the cause of what happened to Bobby Christina. If I can remember, I'll tell you my theory at the end of this video, what I think happened with Bobby Christina. But the bigger issue is that, Bobby, you had been in rehab plenty of times before this happened to Bobby Christina, before Whitney died. You'd been in rehab. Now, unless you wasn't listening to shit those many times you've been in rehab, you should have known, just based off of your own experience, the signs of addiction. If the world knew that Bobby Chris was in trouble with drugs, her being your daughter and you the daddy, you should have known. Why didn't you step in sooner and do something about it? We saw her thin as a toothpick, like 3 or 4 months before the accident. And I'm sure you saw the same picture. So, bigger than all of that, I kind of figured that Bobby Chris wasn't long for this world. From the time they did that interview with Oprah 2 weeks after Whitney's funeral, here you have 18-year-old Bobby Chris. Her mother was Whitney Houston. Being a teenager and coming to the full understanding of who your mother is and what she means to the world and the fame, and I'm sure she understood her mama could sing as a little girl, but really, really know her mama can sing. Whitney was her world. And yeah, Bobby Chris lost her granddaddy, Whitney's father. And I imagine that could be hurtful, You mourn, you grieve. But for Bobby Chris to lose Whitney in the way that she lost Whitney was completely devastating for an 18-year-old. For an 18-year-old who grew up living with people like Whitney and Bobby. So I sit there and I watch her on this interview with Oprah. And this 18-year-old who is dealing with this devastating loss is able to say that she has accepted her mother passing and she's fine. And I'm sitting up here looking at the TV, talking to the TV saying, bullshit. There are 5 stages of grief. There's no set time. But the last stage of grief is acceptance. And people go back and forth. They might go from stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and keep going back through the first 4 stages and then back to stage 3 and back to stage 2 till they finally get to the final stage, stage 5, which is acceptance. And the grieving process is over. You cannot tell me that an 18-year-old girl, Bobby Chris, who just lost her most famous, precious mother 2 weeks ago, has gotten to the 5th stage of grief in 2 weeks. Nobody cared to send this child to grief counseling with all the money that was available to her. So when y'all know that she was out there getting high, y'all couldn't do what's that white girl's name? That white girl singer that shaved her head. Britney Spears. Her parents went to court and got conservatorship or whatever you call that. So that she didn't have access to her money because they was trying to save her life. They should have did the same thing to Bobby Chris. Did anybody really care? There's so many things that I'm so disappointed in. And I'm just speaking my mind. I'm kind of disappointed in Bobby Chris. Well, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be. I'm just disappointed in Whitney and Bobby. Because at 22, last year, at 22 years old, Bobby Chris should have been walking across somebody's stage at a university accepting her degree. I don't even think she finished high school. She should not be rolling across a church pulpit in a casket at 22. She pretty much had the whole world at her fingertips and did nothing with it. You want to know why? Because she wasn't taught or raised or trained properly as a child growing up to handle life, to manage life, to make good decisions. She only knew to do what she saw her parents do. How unfortunate and sad. The other lie I got a problem with Bobby is when he says the first time he saw Whitney Houston sniff cocaine was on their wedding day before they walk down the aisle. They say it's bad luck to see the bride before the wedding, but threw all that out the window. But he says, yeah, she was hitting the line. And he said he didn't even get high. Bigger than that, he says in other interviews, whoever he interviewed with prior to last year sometime or whatever, he had said that he didn't do cocaine. He was a drinker, and he didn't do cocaine until he met Whitney. Okay, so he met Whitney in 1989 at the Soul Train Awards. And I believe the Soul Train Awards comes on like in the spring. And then you have the MTV Awards that come on like September, the fall. Same year. So he meets Whitney at the Soul Train Awards in 1989. Who remembers the MTV Awards in 1989 when Bobby is performing On Our Own and a cocaine vial falls out of his pocket on the stage while he's dancing? He did a smooth step and picked it right up and stuffed it back in his pocket. Who remembers that? You don't remember? I'll point you to it. YouTube it. Bobby Brown, drugs fall on stage. MTV Awards 1989. He's singing On Your Own. You can see it for yourself. So, good grief. So he meets Whitney, Soul Train Music Awards in 1989. He don't do coke. He don't do drugs. He's a drinker. And so that's the spring. So by fall of the same year, you got drugs accidentally falling out your pocket. Who does that? Where they do that at? Bobby. You didn't just start doing coke that year. Bull crap. Bull crap. How is that when you say after you left New Edition, in between that time before you got with Babyface and did your first solo album, you moved out to California and you were selling drugs for a little time before you got with Babyface? And you trying to convince the world that you didn't do coke until you met Whitney? So drugs fall out your pocket. A cocaine vial in the fall of 1989. When did you and Whitney get married? In 1992? So you gonna tell me that you saw Whitney sniffing a line on your wedding day and you just said, I don't want none of that. Turned around and walked away? You really want me to believe that, Bobby? Come on. I think my final point in this video, I think I want to talk about Bobby's new wife. I know what to say, what I want to say, and I'm really not in the mood to try and mince my words. So I'm just going to come out and just say how I see her. If you can watch that interview again when they are both sitting with each other, you know, you watch body language and listen to the words, and, you know, she seems more like his mama. Either he's, I got the sense like he was like a toddler husband. Because the way her language, she was like, and we know that this, and we know that, and we should do this, and we know that we have to. And she was, either she got a husband toddler or she hang around her children all day long a little bit too much. And she needs to spend a lot more time with some adults. Because she was talking and referring to him how one refers to their toddler children. It was really something to see, and you need to go back and look at that if you don't believe me. And hey, my best friend can tell you it was somewhere between 2001 and 2002, after Whitney did that performance at Michael Jackson's 30th anniversary celebration. And you remember that show, what she looked like. And I knew from then that Whitney was going to die a tragic death.